Thanks very much, Nzinga. Well, we're in the beautiful, sunny Cape Town in the parliamentary precinct. And of course, we're getting lots of views around what we can expect to come from Budget 2019. Of course, Finance Minister Tito Mboweni has a lot of things to juggle at the same time, a lot of priorities that he must fund. And how will he fund them? Well, joining me now is Afzal Khan. He's a director at Raft Consulting, and he has his own views as to what the minister can try and do. Thanks very much for joining us. So what is it? I mean, I've spoken to a few of your ilk, your profession, who seem to suggest that there's very little leeway for the minister in terms of tax increases. But what are your thoughts?
So if we look at the taxes in terms of the middle class of society, everything's been done. There's nothing more you can do that wouldn't be oppressive forms of taxation. So the principle that every person must pay their fair share of tax, I think that's an important principle. So what they need to do, and it's National Treasury first, that need to look at what legal mechanisms do we put in place to tax those that are not paying tax. So for example, withholding taxes. We don't have an infrastructure to go out and try to audit these individuals. You don't know what you don't know. So if they came up with, for example, if he were to legislate a withholding tax, so you get these IT businesses from overseas that give a whole lot of money now directly to people within our country. We don't know if they're paying tax. But you've got one supplier, like Uber as an example. You pretty much have one supplier paying all of these. If he were to legislate withholding tax, so if you're paying a driver 12,000 Rand a month, if there's a withholding tax, the tax gets collected by the fiscus easily. Two, that driver is now encouraged to come into the tax net to claim any refund that he might be entitled to. So these are the kind of things where you need to think outside the box. So then you get more, you widen the tax base, so the burden on each one of us individually is less. Because to go to the good tax citizens and to ask for more, it's almost borderline offensive at this point in time.
We've seen from papers like the Panama Papers, where rich people have stashed cash all over the place in safe havens. What is government, or broadly internationally, what are people doing to try and be able to get money from the wealthy where they try and stash it away?
So that's a good question, because you're talking about where else can we get the money from, and the world has come to the point where even the wealthy are kind of saying, we're scared that we're not paying tax because we're scared there's going to be an uprising and the poor are going to come and kill us in our homes. And I think they should be worried about that. But legally, what's been put together is something called Common Reporting Standard, which is 150 odd countries around the world signed to this, that our tax authority can contact a bank in that country automatically even and say, you've got Afzal Khan, does he have any bank accounts, then how much does he have? Then come and say, Afzal has said he's got 50 million. Oh, that would be nice. In an Australian bank account. When they contact that Australian bank, this is actually, he's got 100 million. And then you come back and say, explain where the money's from, and then you can tax in that fashion. So that's a way to identify where the funds are, and you put the onus then on the taxpayer to then say these are legitimate funds and that kind of thing. And I think if they were to do that, I think that's closing another big net. Hopefully, because the wealthy have access to tax advisors, to try and corner them is difficult. You almost want them to realize if they don't come to the party, we're going to struggle. And they can come to the party not just in paying taxes, they can come to the party in talking to government, in talking to politicians, because we know what happens behind the scenes in terms of business and politics. So they can come together because our country needs it now.
Yeah, indeed. And then lastly, look, this is not about the immediate budget, but it's a bigger picture story. Are we winning the war in terms of illicit outflows or illicit flows? We're told that the African continent loses about $100 billion per annum, but what are we doing as South Africa?
Oh, that's a difficult question. It's not really a tax question, but I'll try to answer it. If you have a culture of compliance, when something wrong happens, everybody stops it. But where you have a culture of non-compliance, which is where we currently are, when something goes wrong, people think, one, there's nothing I can do about it, or worse, let me try and do the same thing. And I think we need to very quickly get away. A few years back when Pravin Gordhan was minister, he spoke about corruption, he spoke about those things. If something could be done and be seen to be done realistically, then you're going to get a society that says, yes, this works. Anonymous whistleblowing is something that needs to be supported. Whistleblowers need to be supported, not victimized. If you get that, then you'll get notification, because we've got the legislation. We've got all the legislation to pull illicit funds back. We've got all of that. But we don't have the desire, and maybe people are afraid, and people mustn't be afraid. If someone's doing something wrong, it's your right to stop them. As a citizen of this country, you must stop them. And that, I hope that's where we go to, because if we don't, we've got a big problem.
All right, we're going to leave it there. Thank you very much for your time, sir. That was Afzal Khan. He's a director at Raft Consulting, just giving us his views there. Perhaps the minister isn't limited at all, and he needs to think a bit more out of the box than usual. Maybe there are levers that he can pull. Nzinga, back to you.
Nompumelelo Siziba, our anchor, is going to be giving us coverage throughout the day on Finance Minister Tito Mboweni.